The Department of Cannabis Regulation is recording this meeting by audio and visual means. By continuing with this meeting, you consent to this recording and acknowledge that the Department of Cannabis Regulation owns the recording and may use or reproduce it in any manner it deems necessary. If you do not consent to being recorded, please discontinue your participation in this meeting. Hello and good morning. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Raina Plummer, and I'm the Public Relations Specialist for the City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation. Welcome to today's Spark session. On April 20th, 2021, DCR launched Spark, a multifaceted program that lets community members engage with DCR through a variety of methods, including virtual events such as this, comments, surveys, and informational collateral. At the end of the initiative, we will be compiling a report of every comment, survey, and feedback received. This report will provide recommendations that will help shape future cannabis policy in the City of Los Angeles. Prior to the beginning of each Spark session, we will be allowing stakeholders and members of the community to provide stakeholder comments. Our Spark partner, MBI Media, will be managing this effort before handing the Spark session back over to DCR. Now I'll provide a few quick things to remember about the stakeholder comment period. To make a stakeholder comment, please raise your hand or use *9 if calling by phone to provide stakeholder comment. Feel free to state your name if interested. Participants have 2 minutes to speak. Participants are allowed to speak once per stakeholder comment period. Comment collection, this is a comment collection period and not an engagement method. We just want to hear from you. And please keep your comments on topic. Now I will pass the mic over to Pamela Smith with MBI Media to conduct our stakeholder comment period.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. I just wanted to come on today to introduce myself. My name is Pamela Smith, and you've probably heard my voice. I've been the one that's been handling all of the comments during these recent sessions, and I wanted to let you know that I represent MBI Media. We are a strategic communications and marketing firm that was brought on board by DCR to help facilitate all of the Spark sessions, as well as at the end of this program, put together a full-on project that's going to be presented later on in the year. And I just wanted to let you know that these comments are very important. We want you to know that my team, we are literally transcribing every single word that you're saying, except the cuss words, of course. So make sure that we don't use any of those this morning. But we just wanted you to know that we've been brought on because we've heard what you've had to say, and your words matter to us and to DCR. So when you're making these comments, please know that we're just not here observing. We are taking notes. We're writing down every single word, and every word is being presented, and DCR is going to be reading it. So we look forward to your 2-minute comments today. Again, bring up anything that you'd like. If there's something that you'd like to hear from us during the next session, or if there's something that you'd like to see moving forward, now's the time to make those comments. So we look forward to hearing from you. And again, if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. And if you're calling in, please use *9 in order to raise your hand, and then *6 to unmute yourself. Thank you very much. We look forward to hearing from each and every one of you.
If you have a comment at this time, please feel free to raise your hand. Good morning again, everyone. We are currently in our Spark session stakeholder comment period. If you would like to leave a stakeholder comment, please feel free to raise your hand or use *9 if calling from the phone.
Okay, I see that we have a hand raised. It looks like it's Quest Coast. So we will be unmuting you and you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Great rising, everyone. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, sir.
It is an honor to be with you all again this morning. So thank you all for doing this. I think it's really impactful. My name is Alfred Torregano. I'm a social equity applicant. And I understand today is geared towards community impact. And I just wanted to make reference that we've been able to have the Empowerment West Congress area neighborhood council adopt a community impact statement, being the first neighborhood council to do such a thing in support of equity, in support of community reinvestment, in support of equity grants and fee deferrals, in support of corporate social responsibility and social equity transitional worker hiring reports, to reevaluate, the selection process of commissioners. And we should be able to take a part in that, so a community oversight group. And so this is just some of the early work from the neighborhood councils who believe in the cannabis industry and how it should impact our community. And so I just wanted to kind of point that out as we are rallying other neighborhood councils. This has a strong impact on us if we don't really have a seat at the table to just kind of help really provide things, and not just a seat at the table to be heard, but a seat at the table to really help influence the policy as we move forward for years to come. There'll be so many different regimes, and I think you guys are doing a great job starting this, but who's to come follow behind you all, and who's to follow behind us? We should create a system that allows people to always have a voice in this thing. So I just wanted to point that out, and I appreciate you all for being here, and I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comment.
Good morning again, and thank you for joining us. We are currently in our stakeholder comment period. If you would like to leave a stakeholder comment, please feel free to raise your hand. While we wait for the next comment, I want to remind everybody that starting April 5th, the department changed our virtual public counter service hours. We are now open Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and closed on Fridays and holidays. For those just joining us, this is our Spark stakeholder comment period for our Spark session number 4. Today's topic is community impact. Our Spark session comments, you can say anything you would like. I think I see a hand, so I'll pass it back over to MBI Media.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. And we see that we have a hand raised by Lewis. Lewis, we're going to unmute you and you will have 2 minutes to speak once you start speaking. And you may need to unmute yourself by doing star.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm a social equity applicant also. And on the community thing, this was supposed to be an opportunity for communities affected by the war on drugs to help the communities heal. We as the Black community in Los Angeles represent 8%, yet 1/4 of our population is on Skid Row. And no one in high tech is challenging that. No one in financial businesses are trying to address it. No one in big pharma is trying to address that issue. We thought that cannabis was going to be an opportunity for us to help ourselves, because no one's going to help us. And so we hope that you look at what New York is doing and putting in 40% back into the community of the money that they get on cannabis, so that we can help the communities that are really in plight right now. And I'm not gonna say that, I just wonder what percent of the businesses up right now, the 188 dispensaries or whatever's in the up right now, are really tuned in to helping the community. I know that Social Equities Owners and Workers Association have a mandate to have everybody that comes in under the social equity opportunity to commit to putting back into the community. And we don't see anyone else doing that. So
I'm sorry, sir, your 2 minutes is up, but we really appreciate your comment and thank you so much for coming in today. It looks like we have another hand raised. Oh, the hand went away. Whoever just had their hand raised, feel free to raise it again to make a comment. Okay, we have a Ian McMillan that would like to make a comment. Sir, you will have 2 minutes and you'll need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. So I have a couple of things to propose. I know the city of Los Angeles received about $300 million from cannabis tax revenue, and a portion of this revenue was supposed to be used to fund community reinvestments introduced by Councilmember Marquise, which would create the Neighborhood Health Fund with the goal of revitalizing the communities that were impacted the most by the war on drugs. And today that has been created. I think that's something that should be worked on, that could be implemented, sooner than later. Also, we haven't seen any reporting of the corporate social responsibility reporting over the last 3 years. I think that's something that needs to be done in the circumstances that we're in, and also transitional worker hiring report. Those 3 things I think are major concerns that we should also focus on and bring to the forefront. And I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Are there any other hands raised?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. This is the stakeholder comment period for our Spark session number 4. Feel free to raise your hand if you're joining us and leave a comment. As Ms. Smith stated, we are taking down every single word you're saying so we can compile these for our final report and recommendations. While we're waiting for the next hand, I just want to let people know that DCR will be closed Friday, May 28th through Monday, May 31st in observance of the Memorial Day holiday. We will be back open on Tuesday, June 1st, 10 a.m. Good morning to those who are just joining us. This is our stakeholder comment period. If you would like to leave a stakeholder comment, NBI Media will be taking those down. If you would like to leave a comment, feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand function, or use *9 if calling from a phone to provide stakeholder comment. Feel free to state your name if you wish. Participants have 2 minutes to speak and allowed to speak once per stakeholder comment period. This is for comment collection. We are looking to hear from you guys. Give us all of your comments.
And we do appreciate your time and everyone being on here. We know that Saturdays can be pretty hectic. So again, we appreciate everyone that has joined us on this Saturday morning. And again, this is your time. So feel free to raise your hand via the phone, *9, *6, or raise your hand via the Zoom feature. We'd love to hear from you. Great, we have a hand raised, Miss Evelyn Scott. You are unmuted and the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Yes,
morning.
ma'am, you're right. Saturdays are hectic, and this process itself is hectic, along with a lot of other things. But nevertheless, my name is Evelyn Scott, and I'm a social equity entrepreneur. In the last Spark meeting held on Wednesday, May 12th, a note was posted in the chat from the DCR saying it was inappropriate to speak about specific applications in these meetings. My question is, when can we speak about them? We tell you our issues at the commission meetings, you do nothing. We email you, you do nothing. We call numerous times, you do nothing. We leave recommendations, you do nothing. The DCR receptionists are just that. They can't answer any questions. Neither can the assigned analyst. And these are simple questions about the application process. And some of the information is not listed on the website, such as timelines for workflow process. Y'all want to talk about community outreach. How about reaching out to applicants who are constantly bleeding money at the hands of the City of Los Angeles Cannabis Department? Remember, Measure M promised resolutions for social equity and social justice. There must be tax dollars designated for communities affected by the war on drugs. We tell you this: if we have to email everyone from the city and state every day nonstop until we get answers, we are prepared to do just that. We have a long record of neglect from the DCR, and it's just a matter of time. Thanks for nothing. I yield my time.
Thank you for your comment. We appreciate you. Would anyone else like to make a comment at this time? Okay, we have a new comment from Mr. Brinson. Please unmute yourself and you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Good morning.
Good
Can you
morning.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
Plain and simple, the Los Angeles Department of Cannabis has done zero, absolutely nothing that it promised it would do. As far as community reinvestment goes, zero. It's been trash. It's all been a lie. And y'all have caused more harm to the communities that you're speaking about than helped them. And it's sad because we get on these calls, man, and y'all be acting like y'all doing everything possible. Bro, y'all do nothing. Zero. And it's sad. The Department of Cannabis has done nothing. Okay? Zero. It's fake. They have done nothing. The Department of Cannabis Regulations has done nothing. Robert, y'all lie, bro. Y'all are a fucking lie. Y'all are liars. Y'all have done nothing. Cat Packer, you have done nothing.
So thank you for your time. We appreciate your comment.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Smith, and thank you for those joining us this morning. We are in our stakeholder comment period. We are taking your comments. If you have one, please feel free to raise your hand or use *9 if calling from a phone. Feel free to state your name if interested. Everybody has 2 minutes to speak. Everybody's allowed to speak once per stakeholder comment period. While we wait for the next hand, the next Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting is next week. It's Thursday, May 20th, 2021. Begins at 2 p.m. You can access the commission meeting from the DCR homepage or under the Cannabis Regulation Commission menu. The call-in information is also on the agenda for the commission meeting, which will be posted online under DCR on DCR's website under About, under Cannabis Regulation Commission meetings. Again, good morning and thank you for joining us. This is our Spark session number 4, stakeholder comment period. If you would like to leave a stakeholder comment, please raise your hand to provide a comment or use *9 if calling from a phone to raise your hand. We hope to hear from you.
And I just would like to say again, one of the reasons that we are all here is because we know that things have not been as smooth as we would like. So that is the purpose of what we're all doing today and for the next 4 sessions. And again, all of these comments, everything that you're saying, we hear you. Everything's being written down verbatim. And all of this will be presented in a few months. And you will be seeing things that will begin to address some of the concerns that you all have. I see that we have a person that has raised their hand. It's a Jesse Terry. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, how's it going, guys? I just want to say I feel the frustration coming from my, fellow social equity licensees, and I think, to put the pen, on the head is really what they're saying is, we're tired of talking, right? You guys talk from week to week saying that you guys hear us. I think it's time to start, putting the pen to the paper. Just like how you guys put forth this effort to put together this program, you guys got it up and running very quickly. Why can't you guys do the same thing with expedited modification requests? It really makes no sense. I think as owners, we're frustrated and we're literally bleeding money while you guys are putting together these listening, platforms. We've been listening for 3 years, more than 3 years. So we just want to see you guys act at this point. Action, action, action. We don't want to talk to you guys. We just want to see you guys start processing these application modifications and standing up these licenses. And I yield my time.
Thank you very much.
And good morning again. And thank you guys for joining us this morning. We do appreciate your time and we appreciate these comments. Every comment is being collected and transcribed to help us create a report that will provide recommendations to our city leadership with how we can better cannabis policy and the social equity program in our city. So every comment is appreciated. We want to hear from you if you know other people who are interested in the cannabis industry and the social equity program, and they have comments as well. We'd love to hear from them. Today's topic is on community impact, and so we'll be speaking about all things cannabis in the city. So we hope you will stay with us at 10 a.m. For that. This morning, we will be including polls throughout our Spark session starting at 10 a.m. And we've been doing these polls throughout the last few Spark sessions, and they've been really insightful for us to see who we're speaking to, what people need more information about, how we can better our messaging, how we can go about creating a more equitable cannabis policy. And all of your recommendations are taken down, and we really enjoy getting those specific recommendations. In fact, if you know of an LAMC code section that you want to reference or cite, please let us know so we can make sure we get those specific recommendations down. We've been hearing some, again, very good specific recommendations, and these have been very insightful for us. And we are in the stakeholder comment period. So if you do have a comment and you would like to leave one, feel free to raise your hand by using the raise hand function or press *9 on your phone if you're calling by phone.
And I see that we have a hand raised. It's a person calling in, phone number with the last four digits, 8030. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, good morning. My name is Hansel Urbina here, and I do echo the sentiments of my constituents here. All of this talking, it's been going on for 3 years. Personally, I started chasing after this dream about 4 years ago when the first round of licensing maps were laid out. So we talked our ears off. We beat a dead horse. We kicked it around. There's no action here. And let me give an example from the last Spark committee meeting when the executive director addressed the potential for perhaps relocations, for example, right? Or sensitive use. It was addressed. Sure, it sounds great, but to me, it sounds like more hot air because everyone knows that even if the DCR were to make this recommendation of the city council on Monday, by the time it goes to the Plum Committee, by the time it goes through the secret review, by the time the process would at the very earliest be completed, 12 to 18 months, and that'd be fast-tracked. Yeah, and that'd be fast-tracked. So it's just a bunch of hot air here. What are we supposed to do? Sit on buildings for another 12 to 18 months? And I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Again, thank you all for joining us on this Saturday morning. If you have a comment, please feel free to raise your hand. We are in our stakeholder comment period. and we would love to get your feedback. While we wait for the next hand during our stakeholder comment period, I just want to remind everybody that we do have the virtual meeting room where you can also leave your stakeholder comments in our stakeholder or Spark comment box. In the room, we also have our Spark session station where we have information on our past sessions, videos of our past sessions, and links to future sessions. Our future sessions will have breakout rooms and be more interactive and engaging. So we hope you guys will join us for our future sessions as well. Inside the room, we also have a survey station, which has 2 surveys at this time. One is on licensing and regulation in the social equity program, and one is on corporate social responsibility and community impact. We'd love to hear your feedback through those surveys as well. To get to the virtual meeting room, simply go to cannabis.lacity.org. On the homepage, in the carousel and in the middle menu, there are links to the Spark landing page. On the Spark landing page, you'll see a button that says enter here, and that's where you'll find the virtual meeting room. Feel free to go over and view the virtual meeting room, leave a comment there, or take a survey. And we are in our stakeholder comment period for our Spark session number 4 on community impact. If you would like to leave a comment, please raise your hand using the raise hand function or *9.
And we have a raised hand. We have a Ms. Gorman.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Karmishra Gorman. I'm attending these meetings as a stakeholder interested in business growth and development and an interest in the cannabis industry. And, I just wanted to let you guys know that, I am following things. I'm trying to express my interest by listening to what's going on and responding appropriately. If anything, over the past year, we've learned how important it is to pivot and to try to adjust our planning around what happens that can't be anticipated. And if anything, it has shown me, or listening to these comments and the seeing the exchange over the past year, how people have reacted to COVID and, what we've gone through, is that, of course, planning is everything. And what I've learned from these meetings is that, the planning may have been a little short-sighted, and DCR may have taken a one-size-fits-all approach to a new industry that probably takes a little bit more consideration. And as DCR learns of, the different issues that everyone's experiencing, I'm hoping that they will be in a better position to address those issues effectively, pivot, and, make adjustments that, will help businesses succeed. And with that, I would have to say that I'm a voice for those stakeholders that believe that more of this public comment exchange should have occurred after the vote and prior to the planning of the opening up of.
Thank you, Ms. Gorman. Your 2 minutes is up, but we really appreciate your comment and thank you. We have approximately 20 minutes left for this comment time, so please feel free to raise your hand so that you can be heard.
Yes, thank you all for joining us this morning and providing these stakeholder comments. We love hearing from our stakeholders out there. This is the perfect time for you to leave a comment. NBI Media is taking down every word that you guys are saying, and all of this will be used in a final report and recommendation. So if you have specific recommendations that you want to see or changes you want to see made, let us know. We want to hear from you. You can leave those comments with us via the stakeholder comment period or in the virtual meeting room and the Spark comment box. Speaking of Spark, we now have an email list. So if you are interested in receiving additional Spark updates, as I mentioned, there's more to come with Spark, additional sessions and different interactive ways to engage with the department. And so we're looking forward to, again, these sessions, our comment box, the surveys. So if you want some information specifically on Spark, simply go to our website at cannabis.lacity.org, go to the Spark landing page, and you'll see halfway down a box that will let you sign up for the Spark email list. And thank you all for joining us again this morning. We are currently in our Spark stakeholder comment period. This is the time for people to provide direct comments or feedback. If you have specific recommendations or things you want to see from the department or around cannabis policy and the social equity program here in Los Angeles, please feel free to raise your hand and leave a comment. You can raise your hand using the raise hand function or by using *9 if you're calling from a phone. Feel free to state your name if you're interested. Everybody has 2 minutes. I believe I see a hand.
Yes, Ms. Kika Keith, you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Good morning. I stand before you today as Big Kika. I'm a community member, not a social equity applicant. I am a mother of 3 that has been deeply affected by the war on drugs. From what I witnessed in my community, from the Bloods, spread on the streets, to the inadequacies in education for my children. I stand before you now as a community member of the Neighborhood Council Empowerment Congress West, and I'm going to read a statement from our Cannabis Committee Community Impact Statement. More than 3 years ago, Los Angeles, the largest medicinal recreational cannabis market in the world, continues to be plagued with problems, especially in the social equity program. The perception is that the social equity program is causing more harm than good to the community, the opposite of its immediate intended goal. It is imperative that we work together to change perception by restoring the original stated purpose of the social equity program: reparations, rebuilding, and equity for the communities most affected by the war on drugs. Let us bring the right spirit back to the program and accomplish its original goals. Our proposed improvements and suggestions are as follows. Immediately establish a community stakeholders working group to contribute to the ongoing development of standards and best practices. And I'm trying to rush because I know I got 2 minutes. LA has received over $330 million in tax revenues. A portion was supposed to go to the Fund for Community Reinvestment Act. We are asking that is immediately reintroduced. The department received over $10 million for the Cannabis Equity Grant. Cannabis equity constituents, applicants, they need fee deferrals and grants immediately, processing immediately. Corporate social responsibility reporting needs to be in effect immediately. Social equity transitional workers hiring report. And last, revitalize the selection process of commissioners. The community should take part in the decision of who sits on the commission. Thank you very much. That's from Empowerment Congress West Area Neighborhood Council. Blessings.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comment as always.
Thank you and good morning. Yes, thank you guys for your comments. We're getting some really good feedback from you all. I'm loving hearing these direct recommendations that will help us in developing our final report. We have about 12 minutes left in the stakeholder comment period before we start the Spark session. And so I'm hoping we have a few more stakeholder comments. These have been really great this morning. I'm taking notes. I know MBI is taking down notes. It's great hearing from our community. If you do have a comment, you feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand function or *9 if you're calling from a phone. Participants will have 2 minutes to speak. You're allowed to speak once per comment period. And again, we're collecting all these comments and writing them down, and those specific direct recommendations, they help us in this final report. This time is a great time to give that feedback, or you can use the Q&A function to drop additional comments, or use the Spark virtual meeting room to leave a comment in the Spark comment box. I do want to let people know that the department does have a complaint portal available on its website. If you go to cannabis.lacity.org, on the menu, it's the last menu selection, you'll see a complaint portal. You can use this portal for complaints about unlicensed or illegal commercial cannabis activity. Complaints about licensed commercial cannabis activity that you're concerned may be happening in an unlawful or unsafe manner, and non-emergency communications with LAPD about cannabis or cannabis-related activities. If you do have an emergency, please call 911. But the complaint box and the complaint portal is a great way to submit those inquiries or complaints about unlicensed or illegal commercial cannabis activity.
We have approximately 10 minutes left in this comment period, so feel free to raise your hand so we can unmute you so that we can hear you before we start our session at the top of the hour. I see that we have a hand raised. It's a Shockley III. You will have 2 minutes to speak once you start speaking.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to speak on the topic of community reinvestment this morning. I know that back in 2017, when Measure M was initially passed, it was passed with the promise to voters that a portion of the tax revenue from cannabis that's collected by the city would be reinvested in communities through grants and reinvested to nonprofits that do work in the community in all sorts of areas like childcare, development, all kind of resources that the community needs. And I believe it was 25% of the cannabis revenue that was initially proposed. And considering there's been hundreds of millions of dollars that have come in from tax revenue since then, and not a dollar of that money has gone back, it's really a travesty. That's really tens and tens of millions of dollars that could be going into the community, providing services that have been cut by the city in other areas, and that our communities need. And it's been real quiet about that as well. Like, there needs to be a push. The city council needs to take whatever actions are required to make sure tax revenue is going back into that. You know, I think there initially was a motion to do something about it, and then it just fell to the wayside, and the city council hasn't taken it back up. And that's a big part of why voters voted to legalize cannabis in LA in the first place. And that needs to be honored, particularly since, you know, communities were destroyed in the war on drugs. And now that it's legal, we need those revenues going back in the community.
Thank you for your comment. Your 2 minutes is up. We appreciate your comment and your time. Thank you very much. We do have time for a couple more comments. We have approximately 7 minutes left, 7-8 minutes, so feel free to raise your hand. We have another hand raised. Person with the initials ME. Once you start speaking, you will have the floor for 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Mtume. I represent the Social Equity, well, I'm a member of the Social Equity Owners and Workers Association. Forgive me, I just woke up, my alarm didn't go off. Measure M promised resolutions for social equity and social justice. There must be tax dollars designated to the communities affected by the war on drugs. Reintroduce the Cannabis Reinvestment Act. New York has a model for 40% of tax revenues to be used for communities of social equity investment, of social equity reinvestment, and 40% for education in communities affected by the war on drugs. So bottom line, you guys need to reinvest back in our communities. Thank you. My name is Mtume. I'm done.
Thank you for your time and your comments. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. We have about 5 minutes left of the stakeholder comment period. So if you have a comment that you would like to leave, please feel free to raise your hand at this time. We probably have enough time for 1 or 2 more comments before we get into the Spark session. Today's Spark session is on community impact. There will be quite a few polls that we'll be posting throughout the session as well. Again, all of this helps us get feedback to create this final report and recommendations. And today's topic is again on community impact. As we're starting to wrap up the comment period, I want to let people know that applicants and licensees can contact DCR through email at dcrlicensing@lacity.org or calling 213-978-0738 or emailing cannabis@lacity.org. Again, our office hours, our virtual public comment hours, virtual public counter hours are now Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And close on Friday.
We have time for 1 more comment before we jump into our session at the top of the hour. So if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand and we'll be ready to receive your comment.
And again, we will be starting the actual session, the Spark session, in a few minutes. We have just about enough time for 1 more comment. If there's anybody out there that would like to leave a stakeholder comment.
It looks like we have 1 more comment that we can take before we proceed, Ms. Plummer. I have a DJ that we will be unmuting and allowing you to speak. You'll need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Measure M promised resolutions for social equity and social justice. There must be tax dollars designated to the communities affected by war on drugs. Reinforce the Cannabis Reinvestment Act. In New York has a model for 40% of tax revenues to be used for community, social equity reinvestment, and 40% for education in communities affected by the war on drugs.
Does that conclude your comment? Hello, do you have any further comment?
I think the baby got a hold of the phone. Let's wait 1 second and see if they jump back in.
Okay.
Do you know if they muted themselves or hung up?
Yeah, it looks like they've muted themselves.
Okay.
So We'll give them a couple more minutes. Then if not, Ms. Plummer, the floor is yours.
Great.
Yeah, it looks like they are not unmuting at this time.
Okay, we will go ahead and start the Spark session. It is 10 a.m. So let's get to rolling. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be beginning the Spark session momentarily. Good morning, all, and thank you for joining us for today's Spark session number 4 on community impact. The Department of Cannabis Regulation is recording this meeting by audio and visual means. By continuing with this meeting, you consent to this recording and acknowledge that the Department of Cannabis Regulation owns the recording and may use or reproduce it in any manner it deems necessary. If you do not consent to being recorded, please discontinue your participation in the meeting. And again, good morning and welcome everybody on this great Saturday morning. My name is Raina Plummer and I am the Public Relations Specialist for the Department of Cannabis Regulation. Thank you for joining us for Spark session number 4 on community impact. We recognize that there are many questions and concerns about cannabis in our community, and also recognize that current laws about cannabis continue to have significant impacts on issues like employment rights, housing rights, educational opportunities, and access to health care. And these laws and policies continue to have wide-ranging impacts on Angelenos, especially on marginalized communities. This is the genesis of Spark. With your help, DCR can support and provide the community with access, resources, and knowledge about cannabis activity in the city to the local community. Spark needs you, members of our local community and stakeholders to impacted by cannabis policy or those seeking to affect cannabis policy to share your feedback with us so that when DCR makes future policy recommendations to local leaders, those recommendations will be shaped by the individuals and communities most likely to be impacted. Before I introduce our speaker for today, I'd like to briefly review a few updates related to Spark. Spark is generally broken down into 5 key phases: collecting feedback, analyzing feedback, creating the final report, and then DCR and the commission will develop and present the report and recommendations to City Council and appropriate council committees. From there, it will be up to council and the committees to take action. We are currently in the collecting feedback phase of this process. Throughout today's session, feel free to leave us a comment related to Spark or today's specific topic or what we're speaking about in the Q&A section. We'll be collecting and analyzing these comments as part of our program and the final report. If you hear something you have a comment on, drop it in the Q&A or drop it in the Spark comment box. Last Wednesday, we hosted our 3rd Spark session on licensing and regulation. That was our 3rd Spark session, and it was our 2nd Spark session to add our stakeholder comment period, which has been very insightful for all of us. We've been getting great comments and feedback, so we really enjoy hearing those direct recommendations. These Spark sessions are virtual events dedicated to community feedback on specific topics. The next Spark session will be Wednesday, May 26, 2021. It will be on licensing and regulation. The stakeholder comment period will be from 5 to 6, and the Spark session will be from 6 to 7. You can RSVP in the virtual meeting room. It's also available to watch via our homepage at cannabis.lacity.org. I'm very excited for these upcoming sessions because we'll be including not only the polls, but we'll be doing breakout rooms and some additional engagement. So we are really looking forward to those sessions as well. In addition to the stakeholder comment periods and the Spark sessions, we do have our Spark surveys and the Spark comment box in the virtual meeting room, which are available through June 30th. So if you hear something today and take some notes and you have something you want to leave a comment about later, drop it in that comment box. We check it regularly. We get those. We're compiling every comment and everything you guys say. And again, throughout today's session, if you have a comment specifically that you would like to leave related to what we're speaking about, you can drop that into the Q&A. I will now pass the presentation over to Director Packer to give some brief opening remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank members of the public for joining us for today's Spark session focused on community impact. My name is Kat Packer. I'm the Executive Director of the City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation. Again, welcome to our 4th Spark session. Spark is a tool that was created to provide an additional forum for members of the community and stakeholders to share information with the department as a part of the Spark program. Participants of Spark should see themselves as part of a focus group or a study that will provide information to the department and Cannabis Regulation Commission that we can use in our role and responsibility to advise the City of Los Angeles, including our mayor and city council, on cannabis and cannabis policy here in the City of Los Angeles. This is a place, an opportunity for stakeholders to provide input, either through our surveys, through the Spark comment box, through the stakeholder comment period, and through other means. As feedback is received through Spark, it will be used to create a report with specific recommendations that will help the city take action on policy and program recommendations. And we want to hear directly from our stakeholders. And I appreciate the stakeholders who joined this morning and provided stakeholder comment and those who continued to join us from session to session. We've also invited members of our Cannabis Regulation Commission to participate in this department initiative so that we can work hand in hand with the commission to analyze the feedback that we receive from stakeholders and to do that work in a more intentional way. We have received different comments through forums such as the commission and through emails, but through this method, we'll be able to more intentionally analyze, have the public participate in the analysis of other stakeholders and their feedback, and allow both the department and commission to make a joint set of recommendations to our city leadership. With Spark, we want to be able to use stakeholder-driven feedback to be more bold with our approach to outreach, engagement, equity, and other programming here in the city. Again, anyone who's joining us today, anyone who has an interest in cannabis policy or has been impacted by cannabis policy should consider themselves a stakeholder in this process. And particularly for today's Spark session around community impact, I know, and we here at the department and commission know that that cannabis and cannabis policy has had and does have impacts on our community. And we want to hear about those impacts. We want to learn about how we can address those impacts. And it is a process. Ms. Plummer shared a slide that articulated some of the different steps that are involved in that process. But in order for that process to move forward, we need feedback from stakeholders. And we want to work with stakeholders, with our commission, with our elected officials to more responsibly and more equitably manage cannabis policy here in the city of Los Angeles. Again, we've done our best to date, but we know that no one has a perfect process. This has been an imperfect process, and we want to be intentional about our improvements moving forward. So again, I thank everyone for joining today's session. I will be leading today's presentation, but I appreciate everyone who is joining, and I know that we have different commissioners joining us throughout the Spark session. Vice President Mason from our Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting is joining today's Spark session on community impact to listen to stakeholders. And I do want to give a special thank you to Vice President Mason, because this is the third Spark session that she has joined and has made a real intentional effort to make sure that she is present and a participant in this effort. And so I want to make sure that I am thanking you, Commissioner Vice President Mason, and I also would like to be able to turn the mic over to you so that you can give opening remarks as well.
Good morning. I'm unable to start my camera, but I am here. My name is Thyris Mason, and I do serve as the Cannabis Regulation Commission Vice President. This opportunity to speak to our constituents about our role and what we're hoping to achieve and garner through initiative is extremely vital to the development of equitable cannabis policy in the city. And I am honored to be here to engage with you this morning. Director Packer.
Thank you so much, Vice President Mason. Thank you again for joining. So throughout today's presentation, there will be different poll questions that we'll ask, and historically we've had great participation from folks who are on the line. So particularly if you are joining us as a Zoom participant, we'd love for you to participate in today's polls. And throughout the remainder of the session, part of what I'd like to be able to frame for folks is personal cannabis activity and how that's defined in commercial cannabis activity, and to the extent that stakeholders have feedback or recommendations on policies or programs related to either personal cannabis activity and how that's defined and its impact on your community, and or commercial cannabis activity or the operation of cannabis businesses in your community, we want to hear that feedback. So I will pass it over to Raina, who will get us started, Ms. Plummer, who will get us started with our first poll.
Thank you, Director Packer. Now that you guys have heard from us, we want to hear from you. Let us know who we're speaking to. So I'm going to launch today's first poll question. And it's, which of the following best describes you? Please select all that apply. Are you a prospective social equity applicant, a current social equity applicant or licensee, prospective general applicant, current general applicant or licensee, other cannabis industry participant? Do you live in the city of Los Angeles, work in the city of Los Angeles, a neighborhood council member, cannabis patient, and or consumer? And these are multiple choice. So if you fit into a few of the different categories, you can select multiple choices. So again, you guys have heard from us, and now we want to hear from you. Who are we speaking to today? This lets us know who we're engaging, how we can engage other communities and other people. We're getting some people dropping their notes in now. So again, which of the following best describes you? And it's multiple choice, so you can select a few of the selections if you would like. Are you a prospective social equity applicant? Are you a current social equity applicant or licensee? Prospective general applicant, current general applicant or licensee, other cannabis industry participant? Do you live in the city of Los Angeles? Do you work in the city of Los Angeles? Are you a neighborhood council member? Are you a cannabis patient and or consumer? Or have you been arrested or convicted of cannabis related activity? Again, we want to know who we're speaking to and who we're engaging. Let us know, who are we speaking to? Which of the following best describes you? We're getting some feedback from everybody on the line. It looks like about 61% of people who were on have voted. So I'm going to give it a few more seconds to see if anybody else wants to participate in our first poll question of the day. And again, this is our first poll question, one of about 8 or 9 that we have. So which of the following best describes you? Okay. And so let's look at these results. So it looks like the majority of people on the line today are current social equity applicants or licensees and live in the city of Los Angeles. So that, a few neighborhood council members. So thank you for participating in this first poll. It's good to see who's engaging with us and who we're reaching. So thank you. Before I pass the presentation back over to Director Packer to speak about personal cannabis activity in Los Angeles, let's go ahead and do another poll. So I want to know from everybody, how familiar are you with laws related to personal cannabis activity, i.e. what's legal for adults 21 and over in California? So let me pull up this question. So again, this second poll question is, how familiar are you with laws related to personal cannabis activity, i.e. what's legal for adults 21 and older? Meaning, do you know what adults 21 and over can do as far as cannabis is concerned? Do you know the laws? Do you know what's allowed, what's not allowed? And so we're getting some feedback from people so far. People are dropping their results into the poll. And again, how familiar are you with laws related to personal cannabis activity, or what's legal for adults 21 and older in California? Are you very familiar, somewhat familiar, unfamiliar? We want to know how familiar you are with the laws related to personal cannabis activity, meaning what a person can do, not necessarily a business or retailer, but what you can do as a individual or adult in the city and state. So how familiar are you with laws related to personal cannabis activity? And we have about 60% of the people participating have dropped a vote into the poll. So I'll give it a few more seconds to see if we get a few more participants. And so how familiar are you with laws related to personal cannabis activity? Let's look at this. And so looking at the results, we can see that most of the people on this call are very familiar with laws related to personal cannabis activity. And there's some people who are just somewhat familiar, and it seems like most of the people on the call are somewhat or very familiar with personal cannabis activity laws. So I will now pass the presentation back over to Director Packer.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. As mentioned previously, I'm going to quickly walk folks through some basics about personal cannabis activity. These are primarily laws that are established by the state of California, but local jurisdictions often do have the opportunity to set their own provisions related to personal cannabis activity, as different jurisdictions have, for example, decriminalized different activity. But here in the state of California, through Proposition 64, the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, which passed in 2016, Adults 21 and older are able to possess, process, transport, purchase, obtain, or give away to persons 21 or older 28.5 grams or less of cannabis, or 8 grams or less of concentrated cannabis. Individuals 21 and older are also able to essentially have personal cultivation of 6 or few plants in their home. It is lawful to smoke or ingest, otherwise ingest cannabis or cannabis products, and to possess, transport, or give away, essentially to share cannabis with individuals 21 and older without compensation. Next slide. In addition to legalizing certain personal cannabis activity, the legalization of cannabis here in the state of California also reduced criminal penalties for specified cannabis-related offenses. And it authorized individuals who may have been experiencing penalties for those particular offenses the ability to go through a resentencing process or a dismissal process. And through subsequent initiatives that have passed, folks are able to have their records expunged automatically. There are resources available at the county level here if individuals still have records that they're seeking to clear related to activity that is now lawful. We know that as different jurisdictions have moved forward with their legalization efforts, providing legal relief and expungement have been critical parts of efforts to advance equity in cannabis policy. So we want to make sure that, and we also know the impacts that the collateral consequences of cannabis arrests have had and continue to have on communities. So we want to make sure that there are ways for us to mitigate those impacts by allowing folks to participate in expungement. Because that continues to have a disproportionate impact on communities here in the city of Los Angeles. Next slide. And I see we're at another poll question, so I'll pass things over to Ms. Plummer.
Thank you. So our next poll question is, do you know how to identify licensed cannabis businesses in the city of Los Angeles? So do you know how to locate, find, or recognize a legal cannabis retailer in the city of Los Angeles? And if you have recommendations on what would make that easier, or what we could do to help people recognize or identify licensed cannabis businesses, drop those in the Q&A. Again, throughout all of today's session, if you have a specific comment or note or thought related to what we're speaking about, please drop that into the Q&A. We are collecting all of this feedback, as Director Packer mentioned, and we'll be using this for our final report. So every piece of data that we can collect from you guys is useful. So again, we want to know right now, do you know how to identify licensed cannabis businesses in the city of Los Angeles? Yes, no, or unsure. And so let us know your opinions on that. And again, throughout today's session, if you have notes on the various things that we're speaking about. For instance, if you have a note on how, or a comment on how to make it easier for the community to identify licensed cannabis businesses, let us know. Drop that into the Q&A. But right now we want to know, do you know how to identify licensed cannabis businesses in the city of Los Angeles? And it looks like a little over 60% of the people on today's session have participated in the poll. I'll give it a few more seconds. Do you know how to identify licensed cannabis businesses in the city of Los Angeles? So let's take a look at these results. So this is interesting. So it does about 80% of the people on this call do know how to identify, 13% do not, and 7% are unsure. So this lets us know what you guys know and don't know and how we can better our processes. And if you have notes or suggestions on that, again, drop that into the Q&A. I'll now pass the presentation back over to Director Packer.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. In continuation with sharing information about personal cannabis use, there are different laws that restrict that restrict public consumption and that make it unlawful to drive while under the influence or to travel out of state with cannabis. In particular, in relation to public consumption, it is illegal to use, smoke, eat, or vape cannabis in public places or within 1,000 feet of a school, daycare center, or youth center while children are present. Specifically, it is also unlawful to smoke cannabis in places where it is illegal to smoke tobacco. Cannabis may be consumed in a private residence unless otherwise prohibited by law, but property owners may ban the use and possession of cannabis on their privately owned property. It is also currently illegal to consume cannabis on site at licensed cannabis businesses. The city is considering permitting limited on-site consumption at certain licensed cannabis businesses, but that policy does not exist today, and as such, it is unlawful for consumption to take place at the site of a licensed cannabis business. Again, if there are any recommendations or feedback on these policies, please let us know. There's a lot of variation that exists right now across the country in relation to some of these policies. So part of what we're trying to do is also explore best practices. But just by way of example, in New York, in the state of New York, it is not unlawful to consume cannabis openly outside. Smoking cannabis in New York is almost treated the same as smoking tobacco. And so there, with variation, we want to make sure that we have best practices in place, that we're promoting public health and safety. But again, if you have feedback on policies related to personal cannabis activity to include public consumption, please share that information with us. In addition to being unlawful to consume cannabis while driving, it is also unlawful for a person who is under the influence to operate a vehicle. If a cannabis product has been opened or a seal has been broken on the cannabis product, that particular product may be considered to be an open container while in the vehicle. And so it's important for consumers and patients and members of the public to know that folks may have to place their cannabis in the trunk of the vehicle, or for it to be in a closed package in order to ensure that they don't violate any open container laws. And again, it is cannabis purchased here in the state of California is to stay here in the state of California. It is unlawful to transport cannabis across state lines. Next slide. Ms. Plummer, just a few slides ago, asked a poll question about finding licensed businesses in the city of Los Angeles. And I want to make sure that our community and stakeholders know that there have been some resources that the state of California and the city of Los Angeles has put together to try and help members of the public, consumers and patients identify how to locate these businesses. If you have specific feedback on the resources that have been developed to date, or if you have recommendations on other resources that can be created, please let us know. But specifically, the state of California has a website, capotcheck.com, that individuals can use to verify the status of any licensee that is licensed by the state of California. They also have a public information campaign called WeedWise, which they use to educate consumers about the risks associated with purchasing and using cannabis from unlicensed locations. So we want to make sure that folks know about the website. Again, it's capotcheck.com. That's one tool that members of the public have to verify that a business is licensed by the state. Next slide. And then to identify whether or not a business is licensed within the city of Los Angeles, particularly retail businesses, those who are engaging in direct sales to the public, and businesses have to receive a license both from the state of California and the local jurisdiction. Here in the city of Los Angeles, the Department of Cannabis Regulation or Cannabis Regulation Commission provides those licenses. And on our website at cannabis.lacity.org, we have a map of all of our retailers. We have a function on our map where you can enter your address, and we will return the closest licensed facility to you. But these are some of the tools that exist today to try and educate the public about how to identify licensed retailers. But we know that there is still a prevalence and persistence of unlicensed cannabis businesses in the community. And so we want to make sure that we know how you, our stakeholders, are identifying which businesses, if any, to visit and purchase cannabis. Next slide. For members of the community who are interested in learning more about legal cannabis retailers, just want to share a couple of basics about the operation of retailers that are licensed by the city of Los Angeles here in your community. Businesses are required to prominently display their local license or temporary approval. The state of California also requires that their licenses are prominently displayed as well. All businesses are also required to have a neighborhood liaison and to responsibly manage their premises where the cannabis business activity takes place. There are limited hours of operation. No retailer should be engaged in any sale after 10 o'clock p.m. And there are daily limits on how much cannabis, and consistent with the thresholds that have been set by the state, how much cannabis any individual adult 21 and older can purchase from day to day. Next slide. And I'll pass it over to Ms. Plummer for our next poll question.
Thank you. So previously we asked, how familiar are you with laws related to personal cannabis activity? Now I want to know, how familiar are you with commercial cannabis activity, i.e. business licensing requirements in Los Angeles? So are you familiar with the laws related to the licensing of businesses and what they are and are not allowed to do in Los Angeles? So earlier, the question was, how familiar are you with personal cannabis activity laws? But this one's asking, how familiar are you with laws related to commercial cannabis activity in Los Angeles? So let us know. We want to hear from you. Are you very familiar, somewhat familiar, unfamiliar? What can we do to better our processes? And again, throughout today's sessions, if you have notes specific to commercial cannabis laws or business licensing requirements, drop those notes and feedback into the Q&A. And we'll make sure to grab that and put that, will be part of our final analyzation and report. So again, this question is asking, How familiar are you with laws related to commercial cannabis activity in Los Angeles? Very familiar, somewhat familiar, or unfamiliar? So I'll give it just a few more seconds so people can answer. How familiar are you with laws related to commercial cannabis activity in Los Angeles? Very familiar, somewhat familiar, or unfamiliar? And it looks like the results have slowed down. So let's look at the results. Ooh, this is interesting. So it's half and like almost half and half of very familiar and somewhat familiar, and around 13% of people are unfamiliar. So that's interesting for us to hear that people probably need some more education or are figuring out knowledge on commercial cannabis activity and those laws, and what we can do to make sure our community knows about these laws and licensing requirements. So I will now pass the presentation back over to Director Packer.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. We just shared some preliminary and introductory information about personal cannabis activity. Again, this is the community impact Spark session. So really framing this for individuals from the community who may not have joined regularly at commission meetings or may not be as familiar with our laws and regulations as they pertain to commercial cannabis activity, but we'll quickly do a framing of commercial cannabis activity. And as we share this information, part of what we want to be able to do is to get input and feedback from you on how commercial cannabis activity and how personal cannabis activity impact your community. And here in the state of California, commercial cannabis activity is monitored and managed both at the state and local level. First, start by sharing some information about licensing at the state level, and then we'll share information about our own licensing requirements, policies here in the city of Los Angeles. So what is commercial cannabis activity? The law categorically draws a line between activity that is personal and for patients and adults 21 and older, and then individuals who engage as a business in activities that are quote unquote plant touching, such as cultivation, manufacturing, transporting cannabis. If you are to engage in commercial cannabis activity, you need licensing both from the state of California and the city of Los Angeles. The way that the state's licensing process works is that the state of California will not issue a license to a business in any jurisdiction before they confirm with the local jurisdiction that that jurisdiction has authorized either the operation or application of that particular business. Today, commercial cannabis activity is managed by 3 different agencies, the lead agency being the Bureau of Cannabis Control, and also the California Department of Public Health and California Department of Food and Agriculture. Right now, these 3 agencies are going through a process to consolidate into one agency that will be known as the Department of Cannabis Control. But we engage very regularly with these respective agencies, and we'll be engaged with the new agency. And it's important for us to be able to get feedback from stakeholders on the state's process as well, because regularly the state reaches out to the city and asks for our input. So through the Spark initiative, If there are different priorities that are raised that may necessitate us making recommendations to the state about their process, or maybe changing the way different protocol between the state and local jurisdiction, we have an opportunity to consider that as well. Next slide. Here in the city of Los Angeles, in order to receive authority to specifically tax and regulate medical and adult use cannabis, there was a voter initiative, Measure M, that was passed in 2017 that gave the city the first time authority to tax, regulate, and enforce against certain cannabis activity. And with that authority, the city of Los Angeles created a Department of Cannabis Regulation and Cannabis Regulation Commission. And I think we're on the next slide. Oh, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. In Measure M, it specified a specific tax rate for cannabis businesses. Medical cannabis activity, sales of medical cannabis are taxed at 5%, adult use sales at 10%, transportation and testing at 1%, and other activities, including cultivation, at 2%. Again, with different tax rates for each activity. These are taxes that began to be levied beginning in January of 2018. So this tax rate did not exist, wasn't applied before January 1st of 2018. But since then, this has been the tax rate. And we've seen that jurisdictions across the country, both at the state and local level, have established different tax rates. Sometimes there are taxes being levied at different levels of government. Here in the state of California, local jurisdictions have the authority to levy their own taxes. And I want to go to the next slide. I know that there's been different feedback and information shared from community about the amount of cannabis tax revenue that's raised from the cannabis industry and where that cannabis tax revenue goes. There are several jurisdictions that have created specific funds where cannabis tax revenue is directed to those funds to support different initiatives. Here in the city of Los Angeles, cannabis business tax revenue is currently deposited directly into the city's general fund. This slide essentially is a screen grab, screenshot from pages of this year's budget. And so I want to let folks know that the expected cannabis business tax revenue, particularly for cannabis businesses this year, are estimated to grow exponentially. It says business tax receipts are expected to be 662 million. That's for non-cannabis businesses. And the expectation is for cannabis business tax to grow by 61.2 million. But next year, it's anticipated that the cannabis industry will generate close to $155 million based on the tax rates that have been established. And you'll see below, it articulates that cannabis business tax is estimated to grow by 11.4%. That's based on a conservative estimate of new permit approvals and business growth. So this is at least what is probably the most recent estimate of projected tax revenue from the city's cannabis industry in fiscal year 21-22. We know that we've received recommendations from the public or comments from stakeholders about how folks think that this cannabis tax revenue should be used. So if there's specific feedback on the tax rate or business tax revenue, please share that with us either in the Q&A or in the Spark comment box. Next slide. I was mentioning earlier, the City of Los Angeles established a Department of Cannabis Regulation and a Cannabis Regulation Commission to manage the city's cannabis policy and programming. Specifically, the department processes all of the applications for commercial cannabis activity here in the City of Los Angeles, and we either make a recommendation to the commission so that the commission can make a final licensing determination, or depending on the license type, namely if it's not a retail business, it's the department itself that would make the licensing determination. We also work hand in hand with our 5-member Cannabis Regulation Commission. You heard from Commission Vice President Mason earlier today. The commission was established at the same time that the department was established, and they have several roles in the City of Los Angeles as well. Namely, these commissioners have the authority to advise the city, and that includes both the mayor and city council on the development of cannabis policy. And then the commission is the licensing body, the body that makes the ultimate licensing determination for retail businesses here in the City of Los Angeles. They make the licensing determination for the annual license, the issuance of annual licenses here in the city. So if there are specific recommendations that you have either about department authority or Cannabis Regulation Commission authority, or any other feedback to share with the department and commission, Spark is an initiative to do just that. Next slide. Specifically, the City of Los Angeles's cannabis policies as they relate to commercial cannabis activity are primarily in a section of our municipal code that's referred to as the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance. It is the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance that establishes the process for the department to receive and consider applications for licensure. It describes and mandates the process for us issuing licenses for the types of commercial cannabis activity that we authorize: cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, testing, retail, and delivery. It does not authorize outdoor cultivation, and just use this opportunity to note that the City of Los Angeles has not yet created policies for the licensure of businesses to engage in on-site consumption or cannabis events. It is also the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance that mandates different requirements and restrictions under the city's social equity program. And the City of Los Angeles has made, since 2017, the City of Los Angeles has made regular amendments to the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance. And we expect that we will continue to do so. So this opportunity is for folks to provide feedback that we can take directly on the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance. Next slide. It's important to note that while the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance details the business licensing process, there are other restrictions that are placed in other code sections of our local law. One of the things that is kind of most foundational and critical to framing what commercial cannabis activity looks like in the city of Los Angeles is an ordinance that places restrictions and requirements on where cannabis businesses can locate. Historically, this has been an extremely important consideration in trying to mitigate community impact. As such, the city has created policies that require businesses to be a certain distance away from uses that are considered to be sensitive. Namely, retail businesses are required to be 700 feet away from schools, public parks, public libraries, alcoholism or drug abuse recovery or treatment facilities, daycare centers, permanent supportive housing, and other licensed retail facilities. Folks who are engaged in non-retail activity are required to be 600 feet away from schools, and then those engaged in what's called volatile manufacturing are required to be located 600 feet away from any school and outside of a 200-foot radius of any residentially zoned property. So these location restrictions originally were intended to try and mitigate the impacts associated with different uses that are considered sensitive. But we know that there's been lots of discussion and feedback about these requirements, and want to make sure that the city has a balanced consideration of different interests for folks who may want to see a lowering of these thresholds, or folks who may want to see these thresholds increased. But either way, we want to hear from our stakeholders, particularly if there's any feedback on the cannabis location requirements. Next slide. We had shared this information previously, but there are a number of operating requirements that are mandated of all of our cannabis businesses. These are the operating requirements that are primarily associated with retail businesses, but every single license type has different operating requirements. Part of what the department is working on is building a compliance program to help assist folks, one, understand what those operating requirements are, but then also to help folks to get compliant. But if there are recommendations that folks have, if there's this particular type of assistance, or if there are different restrictions as a community member that you think are going to be necessary for us to monitor compliance, if there have been different community concerns raised or different activity or behavior of the cannabis industry in your community, and you think that a particular restriction or provision might help to mitigate those impacts, we want to hear from you about what your experience has been, and if you have any feedback on recommendations on how we could help improve your experience. Next slide.
Great. It's our next poll question. So Director Packer has gone over a lot of different rules and regulations surrounding commercial cannabis activity in the city. And now we want to know, how comfortable are you with licensed cannabis businesses in your community? So how comfortable are you with a licensed cannabis business in your community? Are you okay with seeing a licensed business on your street, in your area? Do you have thoughts around what those certain different rules and regulations, posting of the temporary approval, hours of operation, any of that? Are you comfortable with a licensed cannabis business in your community? So let us know, how comfortable are you with a licensed cannabis business in your community? Very comfortable, comfortable, neutral, uncomfortable, or very uncomfortable? We've covered a lot of different topics around commercial cannabis activities and licensed cannabis locations. So how comfortable are you with a licensed cannabis business in your community? Let's check out these results. So the majority of people that participated, 81%, are very comfortable with a licensed cannabis business in their community. It's good to know. Thank you guys for participating. I will now pass the presentation back over to Director Packer.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. I recognize that we're close to time, and I do want to try and encourage as many folks to participate in the poll questions as possible. So I'm going to try and quickly get through some of the next few slides, just a few slides left. But there are a number of ways for members of the community to participate in the licensing process. And most of the time, of course, it's our applicants and licensees who are participating in the process. But there are mechanisms and means for community members to participate as well, and also just to help influence and shape cannabis policy. And so either through contacting the Department of Cannabis Regulation, attending DCR events, you can send emails regularly to the Cannabis Regulation Commission. Any email that comes into the Cannabis Regulation Commission's email gets forwarded to all of the commissioners. There are requirements for businesses and the department to hold community meetings as a part of the annual licensing process. At different parts in the application process, the Department of Cannabis Regulation provides public notice to the public. Sometimes that notice is posted physically at the location. We also post notice on our website. And then when we get to the annual licensing process, you may actually get a mailed notice if you are within a certain distance of the cannabis business that is seeking authorization. So we encourage folks from the community to, if they are interested, to participate in the licensing process, or if you have feedback and want to see different ways that aren't included currently for members of the public to participate, please share that feedback with us as well. That'll help us prioritize resources and make sure that we have the appropriate resources in place to facilitate increased engagement in the application and licensing process. Next slide. So as previously stated, there are a number of different activity types that the City of Los Angeles authorizes. Right now, essentially, individuals can apply for all activities except for cultivation and volatile manufacturing or retail. But all of the other activities we receive new applications for on a regular basis. There are restrictions on the number of certain activity types that can exist. Namely, there are a limit on the number of cultivators, a limit on the number of retail businesses, and a limit on the number of businesses that can engage in volatile manufacturing. If you have any specific recommendations on things like activities that the city authorizes, the limits on certain activities, the lack of limits on other activities, the way in which we receive and process applications as it relates to general applicants or for participants in our social equity program, please share that feedback with us. Next slide. So big picture, stepping away from any specific application processes, there are several. If you were in applying for a license for the first time, if you were applying for an area or a license activity that is capped, you might first need to go to City Council to have City Council give you authorization to apply for a license in a given particular area. If you were to receive that finding, if necessary, the next step would be for you to submit a pre-application the department would review that application and determine that the business was compliant with some of those location restrictions that we mentioned previously. After we determined that the location was compliant, the business would then apply for temporary approval, and they would be able to operate after going through the temporary approval process and receiving their temporary approval. However, I guess the note is that we don't consider the temporary approval application filed until the application fee is paid, but essentially folks go through the pre-application process and then the temporary approval process. And that's regardless of the specific activity type that they're seeking licensure for. So if you're applying for manufacturing, or if you're applying for delivery business, you're going to start at the pre-application process and then move to the temporary approval process. Next slide. In terms of community impact, we recognize that and want to encourage members of our industry to be responsible corporate citizens. And as such, the City of Los Angeles passed policies to require the reporting of corporate social responsibility reports. We actually will have a Spark session dedicated to corporate social responsibility. And part of the reason why we're doing this is that we want to get feedback from you on the criteria and guidelines that we established for this corporate social responsibility report. That's in part the reason why this particular component of programming hasn't been implemented. We want to make sure that the criteria and guidelines that we use are stakeholder driven. And so if there are specific feedback or comments on what you as a community member, you as a stakeholder want to see as a part of the corporate social responsibility report criteria and guidelines, please share that with us. We also have developed a specific survey dedicated to community impact and corporate social responsibility. So for stakeholders who are particularly interested in the corporate social responsibility requirements, reporting of industry participants, or want to help frame and counsel the department and commission on how we structure those guidelines, please share that information with us through the Spark initiative. Next slide.
Thank you, Director Packer. Now for our next poll question. Speaking of community impact and corporate social responsibility and how we engage with the community, would you participate in programming designed to promote community engagement and community service by the cannabis industry? Would you, especially if you're in the cannabis industry specifically, would you want to participate in programming designed to promote community engagement and community service? What are your views on participating in community service for the cannabis industry? Do you want to see, would you participate? Do you want to see people participate in community engagement? If you have specific ideas or thoughts on community engagement and corporate social responsibility, drop those in the Q&A or the Spark comment box. But right now, we would like to know, would you participate in programming designed to promote community engagement and community service by the cannabis industry? Let's take a look. So yes, 93% of the people who participated would participate in programming designed to promote community engagement and community service by the cannabis industry. I'll now pass the presentation back over to Director Packer.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. Just very briefly share information with community stakeholders about our social equity program. The City of Los Angeles does have programming that is been developed or is currently in development whose mission is to promote equitable ownership and employment opportunities in the cannabis industry and to decrease disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities and to address the disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. Participation in programming is largely based off of eligibility associated with criteria related to a cannabis arrest or conviction, being low income or residing in a disproportionately impacted area. The programming that we have available or that is in development and forthcoming is application processing, access to financial resources through the SEED grant program, access to legal resources through the Pro Bono Legal Services program, access to business development assistance by way of our business licensing and compliance assistance programming, and then additional financial assistance in the form of fee waivers and fee deferrals. These programs are ongoing and constantly being worked on to provide access to the public. And so if there's specific feedback from community members on different programming that they would like to see, the allocation of resources to programming, the prioritization of different programming, or on how we determine who is eligible for programming, please share that feedback with us through Spark.
So before I pass the presentation back over to Director Packer, I have 2 quick poll questions to ask. The first is your community adversely affected or impacted by one or more unlicensed cannabis businesses? So we've discussed licensed businesses and their requirements and what they have, rules and regulations they have to follow, but there are unlicensed businesses out there. So is your community adversely impacted by one or more unlicensed cannabis businesses? Let us know, yes, no, or unsure. And again, we just briefly covered the difference between licensed and unlicensed cannabis businesses. So we want to know, is your community adversely impacted by one or more unlicensed cannabis businesses? And if you have, again, any feedback on some of the topics we've been speaking about today, community impact, corporate social responsibility, Director Packer just went over social equity program, feel free to drop your notes and comments into the Q&A or the comment box. And let's look at the results for this first poll. So is your community adversely impacted by one or more unlicensed cannabis businesses? And yes, 3/4 of those on the call are impacted, or their community has been impacted by one or more unlicensed cannabis businesses. And following up with that, do you know how to report an unlicensed cannabis business? So let's launch this one. Do you know how to report unlicensed cannabis businesses? So we just ask if your community has been impacted by unlicensed cannabis businesses, but do you know how to report these businesses? So we want to hear from you. Do you know how to report unlicensed cannabis businesses? Oh, this one's shaking up to be a little interesting. Do you know how to report unlicensed cannabis businesses? And it looks like the majority of people have participated, so let's take a look. It's actually interesting. It's kind of split between no and unsure. But the majority of people, yes, do know how to report unlicensed businesses, but there are quite a few that don't or unsure how to. I'll now pass the presentation back to Director Packer.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. So I wanted to, in terms of this community impact session, just remind our stakeholders that the City of Los Angeles has established a task force to try and address issues related to unlicensed commercial cannabis activity. The department is a part of this task force that's led by the mayor, but it also includes different agencies throughout the city, like our fire department, our Department of Water and Power, our Department of Building and Safety, the city attorney's office. And part of what we try to do as members of this task force is to recommend and support more equitable and responsible and also just efficient enforcement strategies. And so if there are any specific recommendations or feedback about your experience with unlicensed commercial cannabis activity, trying to maybe report an unlicensed business or to get that business out of your community, if they're causing disparate impacts, please share that feedback with us. We can take that feedback back to the task force, but also part of what we've been working on here in the city is really trying to be proactive. The department, we don't have specific authority to enforce against unlicensed cannabis businesses, but we do want to be in a position where we can better coordinate the city's enforcement strategy with the aim, again, of being more equitable in the implementation of that strategy, but also more responsible and responsive to community. So please share any feedback that you may have about enforcement, particularly against commercial cannabis activity, but also personal cannabis activity if you have that feedback. Next slide. What we've set up here in the city of Los Angeles is a complaint portal that is meant to capture any related concern or complaint that a member of the public would have about cannabis activity, regardless of if it's related to an unlicensed facility or a licensed facility. This complaint portal is not a means to share emergency information, and if it is an emergency, that information, you should contact 911, not relay the information to the complaint portal. But if you have feedback on the complaint portal or your experience in sharing complaints with the city, please provide feedback to us so that we can improve our process, both internally and to share those recommendations with the mayor's enforcement task force. Next slide. Before we end today's Spark session, just want to very quickly share some additional resources that may be helpful for members of the community. The state of California has developed, particularly the public health department, has developed the Let's Talk Cannabis campaign, which has health information and education information about cannabis. We also have on our website information about the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office and resources that are available to help folks seek legal relief through different expungement services. And we also have information on our website related to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, who also has a public information campaign with information for consumers and information about what's legal. They also have resources for consumers and patients who are interested in participating in their medical marijuana identification card program. All of these resources are available on our website under the personal cannabis activity tab at cannabis.lacity.org. But if you want to see more resources, either from the city of Los Angeles or in partnership and collaboration with these agencies, please let us know so that we can build those resources and create that programming. Next slide.
Thank you, Director Packer. Along with the resources mentioned on the website, we do have a lot of the information we provided today in fact sheets and FAQs inside the Spark virtual meeting room and Spark in the stations number 2 and 3. You will find these different fact sheets and FAQs. You can click on the links and download these different collateral as well. So this is our last poll question for the day, and it's one of the ones that I've been looking forward to probably the most. And it is, select any topic that you would like to receive more information about. Laws and penalties for personal cannabis activity, public health and health equity, public safety, responsible adult activity, or consumer information, medicinal use of cannabis or patient information, cannabis businesses in your community, youth prevention, how to identify legal cannabis businesses, information about corporate social responsibility in the legal cannabis industry. And you can select a few of these different topics. So we want to know what topics would you like to receive more information about? And we do have another Spark session on community impact coming up in June. And so we want to make sure that that program and those breakout rooms are tailored to what our community wants to hear about. So we want to know what topics would you like to receive more information about? And you can select multiple topics from this list. They include laws and penalties for personal cannabis activity, public health and health equity, public safety, responsible adult activity, medicinal use of cannabis, cannabis businesses in your community, youth prevention, how to identify legal cannabis businesses, and information about corporate social responsibility in the legal cannabis industry. So again, you can choose multiple topics, but we want to know from you, what do you want to hear or get more information about? There's quite a few different topics to choose from. So again, select any topic that you would like to receive more information about. And let's look and see. So most people want more information about corporate social responsibility in the legal cannabis industry, followed by cannabis businesses in your community and cannabis tax revenue. So that's interesting. We know a lot of people want more information about corporate social responsibility in the legal cannabis industry. And now, as we're starting to wrap up, I just want to give a quick reminder that our next Spark session will be Wednesday, May 26th. The stakeholder comment period will begin at 5 p.m. The Spark session will begin at 6 p.m. We will be doing breakout rooms in these upcoming sessions. And again, our Spark surveys and Spark comment box are available through June 30th in the virtual meeting room. And feel free to leave your comments at the Spark comment box. And you can stay connected to Spark through the virtual meeting room, our DCR website. Again, we have created the Spark email blast, and we have our DCR email blast, the Spark comment box, Spark surveys, and our upcoming Spark sessions. I will now pass it back to Director Packer for closing remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. I'll keep the remarks brief this morning. I just want to thank everyone for participating in today's Spark session, and want to particularly thank those attendees who have been joining us from session to session, providing feedback, constructive criticism about how we can improve policies and programs here in the city of Los Angeles. I am very much looking forward to this analysis that MBI Media will be building on behalf of community, and then engaging with stakeholders after we kind of see the differing feedback and input that we receive, to try and come up with a balanced but bold approach for improvements moving forward. I do want to thank Vice President Mason for joining today's Spark session. I want to remind folks who are listening in or participating that we do have a Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting next Thursday on May 20th. And at this commission meeting, we will be sharing some of the preliminary feedback an analysis of some of the information that we've received to date from the Spark session. We're going to continue to use the commission meeting as a forum to provide updates generally on the Spark session. So I appreciate everyone joining today's Spark session. And Vice President Mason, if you have any closing remarks, I would like to be able to provide you the opportunity to share them at this time.
Hi, I am here. I am appreciative of the engagement this morning. I've read through many of the comments, some echo some concerns that I have raised in the past, and look forward to continued engagement with the community to make this program as robust, as community serving, and as stellar as possible going forward. So stay on our backs and keep the feedback coming. We do appreciate your presence here today. Director Packer.
Thank you so much, Vice President Mason. And again, thank you to NBI, my staff, and all stakeholders who joined. We will now end today's Spark session. Everyone have a great day.